Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. That's right. You know what it is. It's Wisdom Wednesday. Hey, folks. How is everyone? I pray that everyone is doing well, staying warm in this cold, snowy Ohio, Cleveland weather. Wanted to come on tonight, give us our Wisdom Wednesday. Wanted to just give a few tips that I had to take for myself during these cold days out here. Just a few tips and reminders, making sure that your phone battery is charged fully when you're leaving the house and you're out and about. Trying to make sure that you at least have a half a tank of gas full if you can. Making sure there's air in your tires. And if possible, making sure you keep a blanket and some non-perishable foods in your car in the event you get snowed in or stuck somewhere. And if you guys have any tips that can help other people help us out during this time of the cold season, please make sure you put them in the comments to share with everyone. All right, so let's get into our Wisdom Wednesday for tonight. So our title is going to be Watch Your Mouth. Okay, so I just threw it all in there together and said it like back in the day when your parents was like, okay, now watch your mouth. So that's going to be our title tonight. I do have a couple of scriptures that's going to go with this, but our main scripture is going to come from Proverbs 18, verse 21, that says, the tongue has power, life, and death. So I wanted to talk about watching our mouth, because a lot of times, as we say things, a lot of times it penetrates, it comes out of our mouth and then it penetrates in our brain. And then eventually, we see it, we act it out. And so there's a lot of times when there are things that are happening when we're like, you go on an interview and we say, oh, I'm not going to get that job. I did horrible. Or, oh, you know what? They're never going to promote me. Or, these kids, they always just going to act up. Or my husband ain't going to never get it together. My wife ain't going to never get it together. But whatever it is, so the more you start to say something, the more you start to believe it. So what came to my mind was when you're studying. So like when you're studying, some people study by repetition. They keep repeating, like reading the same thing over and over and over again. And then it sticks and then it's stuck in your brain. Now you got it. And some people, it's like maybe just seeing the same thing over and over and over again, and now it's stuck and now you got it. And so the things that we say out of our mouth, in a sense, comes across like studying. So if you're constantly saying negative things, then eventually in your mind, you're going to believe all those negative things, and it's going to be stuck in your mind. And so the habit that the Lord wants us to get into is being in a place of speaking life. The scripture says it has the power of life and death in the tongue. And so I know for many of us, sometimes, we feel like, hey, I've been speaking life over a situation and I haven't seen it come to pass yet. But at the end of the day, we have to not only speak those things, but truly believe it. And so whatever we say, because guess what? When we speak negative things and say, well, I don't think I got that job. Guess what? We believe that thing in our heart and we move on and we already become defeated. But imagine how much power can come if we speak about things in such a positive way and then begin to just put that out there in the atmosphere and truly believe it. Once you begin to do that, you will start to see yourself move different. And what I mean by move different is start to make decisions. If you're saying, you know what, my business is getting ready to thrive and my business is getting ready to survive, then you start to move different. You start to feel like this bit of motivation and encouragement, and you start to maybe put your business cards out more, advertise a little bit more on social media, or, you get one job and you go on that job and you just feel so encouraged that this is, the next one is going to be next to come, so it just really depends. And so I want us to be mindful of the things that we're saying and to really be careful about watching our mouth. And so, yes, watching our mouth plays a part in our own lives because what we say affects our own lives, but it also affects the lives of our children, our family members. When we're speaking negative things over our family members, we never know, or our children or our spouses, or even just your neighbors, you never know, what type of how that person may be feeling, and you're speaking these things and they can already feel down, and and now you're saying things that are tearing them down even more, and so now they feel defeated. But if this person feels defeated and you come along and you're speaking life over their situation and saying, hey, you know what, I know it looks down for you right now, I know it looks slow for business, but we're going to trust that business is going to pick up, and it gives that person that bit of encouragement and that to say, yeah, you know what, just to have that bit of support. And so not only, do we have life and death in the power of our tongue, but I also wanted to talk from a different place as well with our scripture. And so this scripture is going to come from Matthew 15:18, and it says, but the things that proceed out the mouth comes from the heart. All right, so this is, I wanted to bring up this scripture because I know for many of us, like I said at the beginning of the video, we've had some moments where we were trusting for things to happen. We got disappointed. Maybe you at one point were trusting and believing for, whatever, a job or a marriage to be restored, or a relationship with your children or a friend to be restored. And you did not see that come out the way that you would like it to have the outcome you would like. And so what happens is when we are at a place when our heart is hurting, that's when all of the negative talk starts to come out of our mouth, because we're speaking from, the scripture says it. I'm not saying it. The scripture says it. The scripture says, but the things that proceed out the mouth come from the heart. And so if you have all this doubt and you're believing that, man, I've been stuck in this job. Every time I apply somewhere, I never get it. And so now your heart is hurting because you feel like, hey, I just haven't, I got the worst luck, or, I just haven't had anybody give me a shot. And so now you're hurt and you feel defeated in your heart. And so those things are coming out. And so today I just want to challenge us to examine our hearts and see what condition our heart is in. What state is our heart in right now? Because, if you find yourself doing a lot of negative talk, if we find ourselves doing a lot of negative talk, then it's probably a great chance that there's something that's in our hearts that needs to be cleaned up. We need to admit that some things hurt us, and then we need to get those things cleaned up. And then if there's a lot of positive talk that's coming from our mouths, then we know that we've been on this road of healing, and we're trusting and we're believing and we're being positive. And so I just want to challenge us all to just examine the state of our heart. And don't be afraid, to admit that your heart is hurting, right? We are human. And so there are things that are going to come across in our lives that's going to be hurtful to us. And we're going to get hurt, but we do have to deal with those things, and we can't let them fester because those things can really have a negative effect on our lives. And so the last scripture that I wanted to read in regards to us watching our mouth is going to come from Proverbs 15:1, and it says, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. So I'm bringing that up today again, just to say, in reference to watching our mouth, a gentle answer the scripture says, can turn away wrath. And so sometimes when we find ourselves in those places where we feel like maybe somebody has hurt us, somebody has wronged us, we want to get our get back. What is it? They used to say, get your lick back. And so we want to get our lick back, right? And so we want to tell that person what they did. We want to get them told off, and we want to make them pay. We want them to apologize. And, but sometimes when people do things that can be hurtful to us, sometimes they really don't know. But then when you're dealing with someone that is hurt themselves, and so as the scripture said, but the things that proceed out of the mouth is what flows from the heart. And so if you have someone whose heart is hurting, and then when they come back and they say something to us and now it hurts us, well, they were speaking out of their hurt, and now they're speaking something over us to make us hurt. And so that scripture that I just read from Proverbs 15:1 is basically just telling us, hey, if this person is hurting, they're already in a space where they're on guard, they're ready to attack. But if we can take a different stance, and it's not to say, I know a lot of times people say, well, I'm not going to let people walk all over me. And it's not about letting somebody walk all over you, but we can just choose to say, you know what? I don't like the way, I don't like the way you're speaking to me right now. And so, if there's something else that you want to talk about, maybe something's bothering you, we can talk about that. But if not, let's table this conversation and come back to it later, as opposed to they're coming at us and they're ready, rah, 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 and we're coming back at them with a harsh word. It's going to just stir up that anger that's already in them. It's going to stir up that hurt that's already in them. And so with these three scriptures, I hope that we can begin to really start to examine where we are right now. So first things first is examining our hearts. And so seeing where those things in our hearts that need to be plucked out, healed, pulled by the root, whatever, so that we can get to a place where now we're healed and we're believing and we're trusting and we're speaking positive over our lives. And so then it takes us into our original scripture that says, out of the mouth, there's the power of life and death. And so when we get to that place where we're healed, we only want to see life because we're healed. And so we only want to speak those good things. And then that last scripture, once we get healed, we can go into situations that, whereas before we might have been like, oh, you got your dukes up, I got my dukes up, and so then everybody ready to fight. And so I just think if we can all begin to do that, one person at a time, then eventually, prayerfully, we will begin to see a change where there's just a lot of love that is going around, and everyone is getting healed, everyone is speaking life, and everybody is out here winning. So I pray that this has helped someone. I know it's not my usual upbeat, but you know what? As I got ready to write the scriptures down, the Lord said, take these three. Here's the message for these three. I didn't even know the message till I started talking. But I know the scripture, and he told me there was going to be different parts to this message because it's very important. The heart is very, very important, and where you are in the state of your heart is very important. It shows up in our lives and how we interact with other people on our jobs, our children, our spouses, people in the grocery store. It just shows up everywhere we go. And so my prayer is that we all can begin to deal with those things, reach out to someone that we trust, share where we're feeling right now. Hey, I'm hurting. I just need somebody to pray for me. Hey, I'm hurting. I just need to get this off my chest. And just really being in tune with those things so that we can begin to get to a new space in life as we enter into this new season. All right, guys. So this has been our Wisdom Wednesday. Blessings to everyone with a red heart. LB.